Greetings to the audience at large. My name is Anas Harris, and I'll be today's host. So, special announcement for, people who are new to my house. Today's my birthday. I'm turning 30 years old. So, yeah. Interesting life milestone, right? So, yeah, for the longest time, I was skeptical of the fact that I'd reach this age, but now here I am, somehow. I'm here. And, it's been an interesting journey, like, truly. I can, from the bottom of my heart, I can say living has been an honor. Like, being born in this timeline that I have been in this country called South Africa. In Africa, in this particular epoch, has been, a journey and a half. Like George Carlin said, when you're born in America, you get a ticket to the freak show, but you get a front show ticket to the freak show. I am pretty certain that South Africa has some parallels to that reality. Like, you have the front row seats to humanity at its best and humanity at its worst. Like, yeah. It has been an interesting life, and I thank the heavens, my ancestors, God, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, everything that exists, for all the experiences that have made me me. In particular, the negative ones. Because when I was younger, I was under the impression that I would go through life unscathed. I believe that there's a point system to life, and that I looked at it like a video game. How can I go through life with the least amount of damage? And for the longest part, that was my mentality. I thought, this is how you proceed with things. That's the approach to life. But upon having certain experiences and coming out on the other side, I realized that is truly not the case. There is a good portion of life experience that is truly about your endurance as a human being, your capacity to endure. And unless you engage that capacity as a person, it may be underdeveloped throughout your life. And there may come a time in your life where you need tough skin, diamond tough skin, in order to go through certain situations and come out the other end. So tribulation is a necessary aspect of character development. I thought I could develop character theoretically, just, through gathering information. But apparently the Greeks were right. You require gnosis. Gnosis is a very important aspect of life experience. And it was with absolute humility that I can say I have some taste of what gnosis truly is. And as I sit here before you, ladies and gentlemen, I do not come as someone who is a teacher, someone who believes they know more than you. I am a fellow student of life. I have asked myself the exact same questions you have about the nature of reality. The difference between me and the next guy or the next female is that I am willing to take it further than what most people are. And at certain points, I have proved to myself that I am willing to risk my own sanity for the sake of the truth. So, there is, in a nutshell, that's what I'm about. I'm not an absolutist about a lot of things in my life, but when it comes to getting as close to the foundational truth, I'm an absolutist in regards to that. I try my best to get to the most accurate source of information or the truth, whatever we may perceive the truth to be. But upon listening to many people talk about the nature of the truth, I have come to my own particular understanding of what the truth is. and I've made a few conclusions. One of them being that the truth, by its very nature, will always be multidimensional, by virtue of the fact that we live on a multidimensional plane. So there'll always be the duality, the two sides that are opposing forces, and then the middle, which may represent, let's say, for example, you may have length, breadth, and then you have width. So the middle may be width or something like that. But the bottom line is there's always a middle path in regards to the nature of truth or reality. There is both the left and the right, and people may choose to go to either of the extremes, whether it be good or bad, dark or light, the polar opposites of those, like the extreme versions of those, or people can decide to come as close to source as possible, which is the middle path. So truth, by that very nature, I guess, is very elusive, because at any given moment, we can literally be perceiving one thing from literally different perspectives or different states of understanding. And we could be viewing one thing from different dimensional views. So I think it is for that reason why truth has remained so elusive for so long amongst us as human beings, and why every generation has sought some fundamental truth upon which to rest the stones and the pillars of the foundations of the civilization that they're building. And so, I don't mean to sound all philosophical, but it's these things that make me question where we are today as a society. In particular, we as South Africans, because I have always believed ever since I was young that South Africa and South Africans, or Anzania and Anzanians, are destined for a very particular destiny in regards to the global human story, or the human story in general. But on the global stage, we are meant to play a very particular role. A very difficult role, but a very necessary one at that. And so for that reason, I feel it is very important for us to truly, as South Africans, introspect what we want to see for our country and where we want to see it go. Because if we do not do that, it will be left to the hands of those who may not necessarily have our best interests at heart. Anyone who's lived in this country for the past 30 years, as I have, for example, will be aware of the fact that we are a country of major contradictions. On the one hand, we were able to do what very few nations in human history, in the human story, have been able to do, which is reconcile a polar opposite group of people who were so diametrically opposed to each other that they fundamentally believed that the only way that they could coexist was through separateness. Somehow, total slaughter, bloodshed, and mayhem was avoided. This was done through a series of concessions, allegedly on both sides. But, such premises are debatable, but that's neither here nor there. So, we were able to do something very unique. Transition from a totalitarian regime into democracy with very little violence. Not comparatively speaking. Hence, we're talking in regards to the annals of history here. So, this is comparatively speaking. So, we as South Africans, because of that major achievement, started to believe that we can attain the fruits of liberty without the necessary sacrifices that come with it. So we were quick to want the fruits of democracy, not understanding the investment it requires for a civil society to function under democratic processes, as a new nation state, under a group of people who arguably have maybe never been governed in that way, and with huge historical redress which still has to happen, and huge historical imbalances which were as a result of the systematic damage that was proliferated by the previous regime. So I say all that to say this, we have been through a lot. The past 20 years have been no walk in the park. And yet as South Africans, we've made it look almost easy. Hence, people have very grave misconceptions about South Africa and South African people. We've had ups and downs like any country, but the general trend has been that of decline. Hence, in the beginning, I said we are a country of contradictions. There are the areas and metrics that suggest that as a country, we have been progressing similar to how other countries around the world are progressing, arguably at a slower pace, but progressing nonetheless. But simultaneously, there are other indicators which suggest that we have regressed in other ways, especially in regards to infrastructure, government competency, military competency, our economic prowess, the power of our currency, and so forth. So there's a lot that, has happened, and we still are literally considered, next to Brazil, one of the most unequal nations on earth. So we still grapple with that as a country. So we have a lot on our plate. And we haven't had a lot of time to fix all of this. Some people may say we should have ripped off the band-aid early in our development as a country and just redressed all these inequalities and done away with them from the beginning. However, people are quick to forget that at the time, people were stuck in a state of euphoria about their newly found freedom. And for me, growing up, I was very aware of the fact that almost all South Africans were in a transitionary period where they were literally adjusting to a new world. And so within the adjustments within this new world, people, I guess, started forgetting the fundamentals along the way. Because so much was being done and the world was not slowing down for us to catch up. So we were supposed to do multiple things at the same time. Redress historical injustices. Try to be an equal society at the same time without discriminating against anybody. Appease the global powers that be. also have a Pan-Africanist allegiance to the rest of the continent, whilst also trying to maintain our own interests as a nation state. So you see, we had a lot on our plate as a country. And I think people really don't appreciate this. Or maybe people who feel as though they're not that invested in politics have not observed this over a lifetime. But we as a country have been through a lot and have done a lot. Now, could we have done better? That is the fundamental question. And the resounding answer is yes, we could have. Why didn't we do as good as we could have? There's a plethora of answers for that. And through this project of mine and this podcast, we'll explore some of those reasons. But for now, we are at a crossroads. And we South Africans have some very important decisions to make and some very important questions to ask ourselves. It is no longer about those of us who are alive today or who at least grew up with the privilege of having had a somewhat stable South Africa, who have good memories about the good old days. Obviously, they were not all good, but somewhat the good old days. We need to ensure that there will be a future or a tomorrow for our kids where they will talk about the good old days. And in order for that to happen, there has to be a major redress and a major pivot that we have to make as a country in regards to how we see ourselves. What is our national narrative and where we want to take this country? This is of utmost importance. And we need to, we need to have a strategic and sensible foreign policy. And we have to address our military deficits and our military decline as a nation. It would be trite for me to say we are entering a new age of warfare. No, that's already done. We've already entered a new age of warfare. Wars will not be fought even remotely close to how they were fought like in World War II. You know what I'm saying? Like the technological advancement has happened so quickly and has come by so suddenly that very few people anywhere on the planet really have had a chance to thoroughly adjust to it. We are one of those countries. And so we have to address that with urgency because it is a security threat. A security threat means nobody is safe. And if we're not safe as a country, it leads to the probability of crazy shit happening. So we need to address that. But since it's my birthday, I'll try and be cheery and be a good dude and be nice. So I won't be asinine and maybe say certain things that will put people off. But so we have been sanctioned, ladies and gentlemen. We have been sanctioned by America. Because we have a group of very excited individuals in South Africa who felt it necessary to go to the United States and suggest that a whole crime against humanity is happening in South Africa. Mind you, this is not the first time. This is round 2 of the exact same group of people doing the exact same thing persistently over an extended period of time with similar results. Only this time, the chickens have come home to roost. So, apparently I'm expecting that in a couple of weeks, the group of people who call themselves Afrikaners, supposedly the Boers. Me, I know them as the Dutch descendants, the European settlers / invaders. Yeah, they have been offered refugee status by Donald Trump. And yet, from what I understand, they are not exactly too excited about that idea. Which is interesting when you ask yourself, what did they think was going to happen? What was the conclusion they were trying to see? Yeah, it begs a lot of questions, ladies and gentlemen. I am completely perplexed, discombobulated, confused. What did they see? What did they foresee happening with all the moves they've been making with aligning themselves with the far right for the past decade or two, maybe? Definitely since the year 2015. I can guarantee you that. Definitely ever since the European migrant crisis, there has been a massive escalation of far right wing activity online, and a galvanization of people who have a very particular worldview, who believe they have a particular interest and they want to see a particular outcome happen to the world. And we have not, as a country, addressed these people at all. But now we are forced to address these people because the chickens have come home to roost, and the consequences of their actions cannot be ignored because they literally will affect everybody. So we're at a crossroads. So what to do now? And what do they think we as the native populace of this land are supposed to do? What do they think should be the appropriate response for us? And it's interesting how this escalation almost always comes about when the land question is raised. Me personally, in my youth, I figured this out early, even before the EFF was ever even imagined that something like the EFF would ever form. I was still in grade 8 or grade 9, and I just asked, how come white people still own the land? Who negotiated that deal? How do you even justify that? How do a bunch of people who came on boats in a generation or two, or three maybe, or four, whatever, all of a sudden own a large chunk of the southern hemisphere? Who are these people? Where did they come from? Again, on boats. So how exactly did they come to own all this land? People got very uncomfortable when I asked such questions. So I learned quickly that, leave that alone. But later on, people became hip to the land question. And then the land question became a thing. Which, for me, it was never supposed to be a thing, because I was under the impression that the revolution was always about the land. But apparently not. But again, story for another day. So now here we are. The land question is here. The land bill hasn't been passed. And now these people claim that genocide is being committed against them and their land is being stolen. Again, the operative word, their land. How did they acquire this land again? Very, very, interesting history there. But, people apparently feel uncomfortable to speak about it. So there is that. But nonetheless, we're here. And we're at a crossroads. So what to do now? I'll echo what most South Africans feel. If people feel so strongly about the horrible nature of South Africa, the ANC, the incompetence and the inherent incompetence of the Bantu people or the black people of this land, then why do they feel so strongly tied to this land? For a bunch of people who are experiencing genocide, y'all really don't want to leave. Like, at all. So, what's up with that? You know what I'm saying? It's very strange. Like, y'all do not show the symptoms of a bunch of people, who are being persecuted. I mean, persecuted in yachts? In skyscraper buildings? In gated communities? In Hilux vehicles, like, in luxury cars, like, where is this oppression happening? Like, with the highest employment rates in the country? Like, what are you talking about? The highest educational output? Like, what's going on? Like, in what aspect of life are y'all losing? Really, like really, really. And don't tell me about the outlier losers. I'm talking as a general rule. So you see, there's just arguments that are made just from bad faith. Just from bad faith. You know what I'm saying? Bad faith arguments. Just at the basis of the arguments is just downright delusion and logical fallacies. So yeah, we have a problem. And I'm not sure how it's gonna be resolved. I'm looking, and I'm curious, truly curious, because I predicted this a long time ago, and I just find it so fascinating and entertaining that it came at a crossroads at my birthday, during the time of my birthday. Like, I knew I was gonna see something of this nature in my lifetime, and sure enough, in our lifetime, it's happening. The global world order is again forced to shift in some fundamental way. All because some people are so insecure that they feel as though they can't share the planet with other people. No, it must all belong to them. Okay, good luck with that, brother. Yo. So, another thing you must consider, like, the whole basis of the whole economy is based on land. We're not Atlanteans. We don't live under the ocean. This idea that the only value of land is farmland is some stunningly stupid shit. Like, what if black people want to build a fucking Wakanda? Like, do we not have that right? Now I know, because it's the internet, there's gonna be some bright star, gonna be like, well, why don't y'all build a Wakanda with the land you already have? Fair enough, why don't we, man? It's a good question. But you're missing the point of what I'm trying to say. Black people make up, and not just a majority, an overwhelming majority of human beings in this fucking country. So, if we're gonna talk about equality, we can't talk about equality without talking about equity. So now, with you smart people out there, what about today's current distribution of wealth, resources, and land even remotely seems equitable to you? Like, just asking, in your heart of hearts, what about it seems sensible to you? So, in your head, black people have to toil for white people and white people's corporations and businesses to buy land from them, which they originally stole, so they can be renters and then still have to pay off the state and a bank, which is mostly not even owned by African people in the first place. Like, yo, do you understand the madness you people are expecting us to go through just to exist on our own piece of dirt? Like, I always use this expression that in South Africa, absurdities we are meant to accept absurdities as our reality. There are so many facets of South African society which are not just extreme, which are not just ludicrous, but are downright fucking crazy. But yet they exist. And we're meant to accept the fact that they exist. And whenever people propose solutions for how these things can be fixed, those people, they seem to be troublemakers. But no, really, we pretend like we don't dictate the contents of our own environments. We are not like lower primates. We literally can change our environments. So, so for people who think it's conducive for thousands or millions of people to be crammed into a township, have you not looked at experiments where, for example, lab mice are put into congested areas and what it does to a mice colony, for example? And those are simple mammals, right? They're not sophisticated simians like we are. You know what I'm saying? There's total social breakdown when people are piled up on top of each other. So, and if you study sociology, and you understand Hendrik Verwoerd, one of the architects of apartheid and whatnot, and the reason the townships were designed anyway, it was so they were equivalent to a concentration camp. They were never meant to be thriving spaces of black innovation or something like that. No, that came as a result of generations of black people's efforts to revitalize and change townships into something livable. Hence, now you find millions of foreigners flock from all over the world flocking into, townships and, living comfortably. Arguably a better standard of living than where they come from. But it was not designed to be that way. And so, with all the land we know is available in South Africa, you people expect the rest of South Africans to just live in absolute squalor. Why? So you can have another vacation in your third home in Cape Town or in Northwest or in Free States or wherever the fuck. Why? Because daddy or granddaddy something left you land he stole. Land which you don't even utilize. What type of bullshit is that? You know what I'm saying? We suffer from a massive greed factor, which is crazy to me. And it's similar to America in that we claim to be a conservative Christian nation. Yet you look at the debauchery, the corruption, the greed of just people in South Africa. And it flies at the face of convention at what people claim to say they believe in. And I'm not saying all of this pretending to be righteous and perfect. It's just my observations. But I'm just truly stunned at the people who want the rest of society to accept the current conditions as they are. Are you crazy? Have you looked around? Have you taken a drive around South Africa and seen how people are living out here? In modern society, with the resources we have, with the knowledge we have, the know-how we have, our understanding of how human dynamics and human societies form and function, there's absolutely no fucking way that people should be living the way that they do. So it's either designed to be that way, either someone is benefiting from it being that way, or we are all foolish and incompetent as a country and as a people. And so we deserve what we get. But I suspect that there's something else going on. And hence, I propose that, we start talking about real shit and start making real shit happen. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the ANC has demoralized this, not just the ANC, white monopoly capital, and the corporate elites of this country have demoralized this nation in the sense that they've deflated people's sense of there being upward mobility and have made people, in a sense, give up. People don't believe in their own personal powers of development, of self-development, and the ability to build sustainable communities. Like, people are truly under the assumption that the government is supposed to build them, their community. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've created a very strange society in South Africa. Again, South Africa, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, with the most beautiful people, with arguably some of the most abundant potential. But, as I say, some of the realities which we face on a day-to-day have to compel us to do better. Because if they do not, I truly fear for those who come after us, the young ones. And I remember what it was like growing up in the new South Africa. There was much glee and celebration about the direction in which we were taken and the progressive nature of South Africa. But once people started realizing and acknowledging the fact that not much was changing in terms of the economic distribution of South Africa, and only a handful of selected black people were being chosen to partake in in the fruits of liberty that other people will not necessarily get an opportunity to eat from that same table. You know, like, a whole black elite instead was created. And then the middle class was kept to a bare minimum. Like, and I get that, you know, there's a problem with establishing a huge middle class in the early developments of a country, in that it stifles, for example, labor prices and whatnot. But in South Africa, what you find is that there's a clear case of sabotage and the government becoming very cozy with the business class and no longer representing the interests of the people, and no longer guiding policy towards social equality and social equity. And what I'm talking about is not equality of outcome, it's equality of opportunity. Because I truly believe even in modern South Africa, you have to be delusional to believe that we all have this exact same opportunities and that we have the exact same starting ground, or we start at the same place in this life race. Either you don't know enough people or you're truly stuck in a bubble. But nonetheless, we as a people and the government have a lot to account for. What I won't do is pretend as though the last 20 to 30 years have only been the failure of the ANC. I feel as though people who do that are very dishonest. And they don't look at the comfortable truth at who have been the people that have benefited the most from the new democratic South Africa. But I can tell you this for free. It has not been the vast majority of South Africans, in the sense that what they were promised and what they could have achieved had they were given the tools and the states had equipped them to do for themselves, we would have been far further and had been a healthier nation than otherwise. So, you know, and all that I'm saying is not to project my insecurities outward. It's truly things I have just observed and I believe are going on. And it's for that reason I talked about the fact that we need to have a serious dialogue about the state of South Africa and where we see this country going. We no longer have a choice about having this discussion. The fourth industrial revolution is going to smack us in the face. Innovation is the new currency of the world. And we have to answer the call. there is no other way but to innovate our way out of our problems. And yeah, I'm tired of people pretending like the world is as it was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago. We literally live in a world that is akin to magic. Modern society is akin to damn magic. The fact that we have as much functionality as we do and we can get so much done is testament to the human spirit. And I think it will be a disappointment and a letdown to our forefathers and foremothers and those who came before us, who built this beautiful nation, who bled, died, and shed their tears to make sure that we see what we see today. I think it would be a shame to them. It would be a shame, for them to see us just let it go and leave it to the hands of a parasitic few and a parasitic elite who care not for the nature of mankind or society or Mother Earth itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have a problem. And our problem is inactivity, inaction. You know, we have global connectivity. We're constantly connected, yet we will arguably be less active than those who came before us in regards to fighting the power. The powers that be have not felt the pressure that they did in the 90s or in the 70s, for example. The last time the powers that be in this country felt the pressure is during Fees Must Fall. There hasn't been any major social revolution or social major movement as big as Fees Must Fall. And I am pretty certain the reason for that was because Fees Must Fall was initiated by the millennials. Us millennials, I strongly believe, we are the last generation who were the in-between babies, in the sense that we came from the old world. We experienced the echoes of the old world, of what the old world was like. And we were also instrumental in experiencing the fruits of the new world, the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? Arguably one of the heights of the technological age. And then we've had enough time to adapt and get accustomed to both ways of living. We were born in the 90s where humanity was going through a transitionary mode. And so we were the generation that bared the fruits of the innovation that was happening in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. So I'm pretty certain that that's one of the reasons why Fees Must Fall was the last big revolutionary movement that happened in South Africa, because we were the last generation that was slightly still in tune with the revolutionary spirits. What I've come to see, or what I've come to find with the young generations of today in South Africa, is they don't feel as invested in South Africa as, for example, as we were taught to be. They are more interested, and I won't say it's self-interest, but they're more interested in comfortable existence rather than societal revolution. Like, they believe that things have been corrupt, and will remain corrupt. So there's no point in even trying. That's what I find. I find a strange despondency and, I won't say lack of care, but as, an alternative view of what needs to be done from the younger generations. Like, they're not even interested in fighting the power. They want to circumnavigate the power and just get to where they want to get to, you know? So, yeah. I just feel slightly aggrieved and maybe sad for the younger generations. By that I mean, like, the ones who are, like, currently in primary school and younger. Because they are truly growing up in a brave new world. Like, the world they're growing up in is, wow.
interesting to say the least. But it's so technologically integrated that I can see why for them it's hard to believe that the world was never like this. You know, I can see why for them they can't imagine a world without an internet, because it's so ubiquitous and it's just, you know, throughout society. But I also see the shortcomings and the devastation that technology has had, and some of the dangers of what it can do to society, and how it can socially retard the development of a people if mishandled, you know. So for me, these are conversations and questions I ask myself on a daily about where we are going and what status quo is going to be in a couple of years' time. Because unlike most people, I have made peace with the fact that the one thing that's constant about existence and life itself is change. And so I'm always looking forward to change. Sometimes it is scary, and there have been times in my life where I've got in the way of my own evolution. But I think through learning, growing up, trials and error, you learn that not to be passive, but to accept what is. At all times, accept what is. Resistance is futile. Anyway, this is me for my birthday. I've expressed myself enough. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, gained something from it. I hope it sparked something in your brain. Something, you know, you might want to conversate about. For the most part, you know, I'm having fun with this. I'm enjoying this. It took me a while to get to this point where I was confident enough to do something like this. And it's partly because I enjoy it. I'm enjoying where I am with what I'm doing right now. So, yeah, with all that being said, thank you. Thank you for your time. Enjoy and subscribe. Forbidden Fruits, Zane Osiris out.